Today I'm going to show you how to assemble your embroidered stocking. These are the things that you'll need. The first job's a bit scary. You need to cut out your stocking, leaving a 10 to 15 mil, around about half an inch seam allowance all round. For this video, I'm making a half size stocking, but the method is the same for either size. And take your embroidered stocking and place it on your backing fabric. They need to be right sides together. Pin it in place. Now you can cut your backing fabric to the same size. Next, take your lining fabric and fold it in half, right sides together. You're going to use your stocking to cut your lining to the right size. So pin your stocking to the lining fabric. And cut out your lining. Now you need to take out the pins, the last ones that you added, the ones that are holding your embroidered stocking to your lining fabric, but keep in the pins that are holding your stocking pieces together. So you've kept those pins in. And now you can pin your lining pieces together. So now you should have both your stocking and your lining cut out and pinned and ready for sewing. Next, we're going to make the hanging loop, and for this you'll need a rectangle of fabric. For a full-size stocking, this needs to be about 6 by 20 centimetres. That's about 2.5 by 9.5 inches. But for this smaller version, I'm making it a bit smaller, about 4 by 24 centimetres or 1.5 by 8 inches. And you can just draw the rectangle directly onto your fabric, or if it's easier, you can make a little rectangular paper pattern to use. You just need to cut your rectangle and then fold in around about 1 centimetre or just under half an inch with your right side out and just iron that. And do the same on the other side. And now you need to fold this in half, again with the right sides facing out, and iron that. Now you're going to sew along the open edge, and you can do all of the sewing for this stocking by hand, or if you'd rather you can use a sewing machine. I'm doing a single running stitch here because you'll see it from both sides. So that's all done, and you can just pop that to one side for now. So now it's time to sew your stocking. If you start at the top and go down the sides, I'm using a back stitch for this. You need to leave the top unstitched, and you need to go just inside your basting stitches. Now in places the basting stitches are a little bit wiggly because they had to go through the holes in the Ada, but now as you're using a sharp needle you can stitch a nice smooth line using the basting stitches as a guide. You can now take out the basting stitches from the sides, but leave the ones at the top for now. Next, the lining will be sewn, but first of all, there's a job that you need to do. So we need to make sure that the opening at the top of the lining is the same as the opening at the top of the stocking. Otherwise, when you come to stitch them together later, it will cause you trouble if they're different sizes. So I used a couple of pins just to mark this distance. You also need to leave a gap at the bottom of the foot, and this gap needs to be about 10 centimetres or 4 inches wide, so mark this out with pins too. you can sew your lining. Again, leave the top unstitched. And don't forget about the gap in the bottom of the foot. Take out the pins. The next job's a little bit frightening. You need to cut some triangles wherever there is a curve. You need to snip as close to your stitches as you can, without cutting through them, of course. But doing this really helps when it comes to turning your stocking the right way out. Now you need to iron your seams open. And do the same on the other side. On your lining, you just need to iron open the seam on the section of foot that you left unstitched. Okay, so it's time to turn your stocking now, so it's right side out. Take your stocking loop and fold it in half. With the loop part at the bottom, pin this to the back seam of your stocking. the pins a little bit down from the top of your stocking because we're going to be stitching around the top. Just make sure that's nice and central along that back seam. Now we need to put everything, including the loop, inside the lining. So just carefully pop it in. Mind your pins on the back. Line up the edges at the top, and you need to line up the seams also at the back and the front, and just open those seams out. And just make sure everything's nice and lined up, and then pin that into place. Do the seam on the other side. Now start stitching just below your basting line, and you need to stitch all the way around. And there's no line to follow on the back part of your stocking, so just try to keep going across in a nice straight line. When you get to the loop, add some extra stitches for strength. Let's secure your thread. You're nearly done. Now you need to take out the last of the basting stitches at the top of your stocking. And now you're going to carefully pull your stocking through the hole in the foot of your lining. Take out the pins that are holding the loop in place. And you just need to sew up the gap in your lining. I used invisible stitch for this, but it doesn't really matter what you use because it will be hidden. And now you can pop your lining inside your stocking. And you're done.